For the latest on Russia's vicious war in Ukraine, correspondent Sarah Coates is live in Kyiv, Ukraine. Sarah?
Hello there, Greta. Well, look, you know, today's attack just really shows what an absolutely vulnerable state that this country is in. Even the capital here, Kyiv, which is home to almost 4 million people. So earlier this morning, we woke to these really loud air raid defense systems wailing. 20 minutes after that, look, you can just see this snow coming down and the conditions that people are facing here. 20 minutes after that, they were hearing these sounds that were something like a loud motorbike. Then we heard these loud booms in the sky, Greta. That was, of course, Ukraine's air defense systems shooting down 13 of these Iranian-made Russian drones attacking the centre here in Kyiv. Now, we can report that these drones, they are unverified reports, rather. They had a message of them for Ryazan, which is an air base, a Russian military base deep inside Russia, which was attacked earlier last week. Let's take a little listen to what we heard from residents and also the Ukrainian President Zelensky a little earlier today.
Не проснулся, собираюсь на работу. Вот это слышу, ну сначала сирена прозвучала, потом уже минут 20 проходит, и звук вот этого мопеда, и взрыв получается.
Бажаю здоров'я. Цей ранок терористи почали з 13 шахедів. Попередньо всі 13 збито нашими українськими ППО. Молодці, пишаюсь. Шановні громадяни, дякуємо ППО і не забуваємо про сирени.
Now, Greta, you know, this comes as Ukraine is expecting an announcement anytime soon on these Patriot missile air defense systems. These are air defense systems, as we know, that are advanced, long range and have a very high altitude, which could help with the situation that has been ongoing. What we've been seeing is the Kremlin using winter as a weapon of war, really targeting energy infrastructure right around the country. Now, if indeed this does happen, it will really give Ukraine a bit of an edge to try and shoot down any of these missiles that have been really targeting the energy infrastructure, which could potentially lead to a humanitarian crisis. Now, we have heard from the Pentagon a little while ago saying that it will indeed provide 6 more NASAMS air-to-surface missiles, rather, but it is not quite yet putting anything out with regards to the Patriots. Let's have a listen to what we heard from the Pentagon spokesperson a little earlier.
We were able to very quickly work with our allies and partners to get air defense capabilities there, to include NASAMS, and we've got 6 more on the way. So.
All right, so Greta, you know, what we're really seeing now is hundreds of thousands of people without heating, without power, without hot water, and it is, you know, potentially going to be an extremely tough winter ahead, as you can see right here on the ground.
Sarah Coates, as always, thank you very much. And U.S. officials are struggling to track the billions of dollars of aid U.S. taxpayer money that was sent to Ukraine. The struggle, according to a Politico report. Since the beginning of the war, the U.S. has sent at least $14 billion in aid to Ukraine. For months, Republican lawmakers have been questioning where the money in aid has been going. Was Ukraine using the aid money appropriately and for its intended use? Now, a shocking report, but I guess regrettably not so surprising. A State Department cable written back in September, but recently obtained by Politico, reveals that U.S. officials do not know where that money went. The September 6 cable from the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv lists the challenges that the U.S. officials face when trying to monitor every U.S. dollar on the ground when the city is under attack. The 9-page cable is signed by U.S. Ambassador Bridget Brink. Earlier this week, I spoke to the House Oversight Committee and ranking member and soon-to-be chairman, Congressman James Comer. We spoke specifically about oversight of U.S. aid to Ukraine, or lack thereof of the oversight. Here's what Congressman Comer told me.
Unfortunately, the administration's blocking us at every turn. If we see they're about to spend a bunch of money on, say, Ukraine, we request information. They haven't been turning over the information. Now, the Democrats will say that happened in the previous administration. That has to stop, because it's very hard to claw tax dollars back. If you find that it was spent fraudulently, it's very hard to get it back. So we have to stay on top of things. But unfortunately, right now, we have an administration that's blocking us at every turn.
And Iran ousted from the United Nations Women's Commission today. The ouster was proposed by the United States. It comes as Tehran is cracking down on protests sparked by 22-year-old Mahsa Amini's death. Amini died in police custody after she was arrested for improperly wearing her hijab. Iran has been removed from the Commission on the Status of Women for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 term. Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and former National Security Advisor John Bolton joins me. Ambassador, before we get to the discussion about Ukraine, let me talk about the UN being ousted from the UN Women's Commission. First of all, do they care? Secondly, does this commission do anything, or is it like student council, or does it have a lot of does it have a lot of muscle and can it do something?
Well, the commission doesn't have any muscle. Being on it is a political plus for regimes like Iran. I think it's a good thing they've been removed from it, but we shouldn't be too euphoric about it. There are 54 members of the Economic and Social Council of the UN that made this decision today. There were 29 votes in favor of removing Iran, 8 negative, 16 abstention, and 1 country didn't show up at all. When you say 29 to 8, that sounds like a big amount, but in the UN, abstentions or not showing up are equivalent to a negative vote. And in a 54-member body, 28 is a majority. We got 29 votes. It was not an overwhelming victory. Good thing to do, but I wouldn't take it to the bank.
Ambassador, let me go now to the issue of this cable that Politico has recently obtained. It was written in September. Not really a surprise that they can't track the money that has gone to Ukraine. American taxpayers are oftentimes very generous, open up their wallets, they want to help get things done in the world. But it seems, at least to me, it's so frustrating that it's not tracked until after the fact, when it's too late to claw back and get the money. Is there anything we can do?
Well, just speaking as an alumnus of the U.S. Agency for International Development back in the day, it's the responsibility of aid, the State Department, the Defense Department, to track aid that we give to foreign countries. That's not something new. They just don't shovel it out the door. So I think there is information in the administration about what has been done with those resources. And to be clear, it isn't the case we've simply written checks for billions of dollars that just disappear. A lot of this stuff, the Javelin missiles, the HIMARS, the NASAMS that the press spokesman for the Pentagon referred to in your piece a minute ago, we're delivering hardware. So we're not giving Ukrainian officials money that's fungible. We're giving them things that have a battlefield use. Now, that needs to be tracked as well. We shouldn't just allow things to be distributed and not have accounting. But let's also remember, on a battlefield, it's not necessarily a benign environment for accountants. And people do what they need to do. I support accountability and transparency, but let's not go so far that we impede the battle effort. Let's get the Ukrainian government to cooperate more if that's what's necessary. Get the State Department, the Defense Department to cooperate more. Let's find out. It may not be as bad as people think.
Well, I just showed, in terms of fairness, I did a little research, and during the Bush 43 administration, during the Iraq War, the U.S. sent $12 billion in cash to Iraq and simply watched it vanish, $12 billion. And, we always get sort of the accountability after the fact, rather than trying to get it, as these things are happening, to try to stop it. So it's not particularly new in this administration that money is unaccounted for. But it's enormously frustrating, I think, at least I think, for the American taxpayer. Let me turn to Ukraine. What's going to happen?
Well, I think it's pretty clear, at least for the moment, that the Russians are not achieving their objectives on the battlefield. And I think the Kremlin has switched for the coming winter, the winter we're already in, to seeing if they can win politically what they have not been able to win militarily. That involves pressure on the Europeans, the cutoff of natural gas. It involves efforts by Putin and others to convince European leaders that the war's gone on long enough. We ought to turn the page. You've got the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, just within the past few weeks saying Russia has to be given security guarantees in any settlement. I think that while Putin is trying to break Ukrainian morale with this effort to destroy their electrical generation infrastructure, I don't think they're going to break the Ukrainian resolve. What he thinks he may be able to do is break Europe's resolve, or maybe even in the United States as well, and get a settlement process going that will save his face, freeze the battlefield, and allow him to regroup. That's a mistake we should not make.
What's your impression of President Zelensky? How has he executed this war, this defense?
Well, you know, I think from the very beginning, he's shown he's determined to fight. We offered him a way out at the very beginning because our intelligence conclusion, the administration's intelligence, said that the capital, Kyiv, would fall in a matter of days and the whole country in a matter of weeks. And that's when Zelensky famously said, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition. And I think he's been an inspiring figure for the Ukrainian people and around the world. I just wish our efforts were not seemingly always a day late and a dollar short. The objective here ought to be to push the Russian troops out of Ukraine. This aggression, which began, let's be clear, in 2014 and didn't have an effective response, needs to be repulsed. That's point one.
All right, Ambassador John Bolton, thank you, sir.
Thank you.